to do. The first concert that we normally play is in December. And because we have like instrument classes, we do 2 full band rehearsals prior to the concert. Usually we do a Monday rehearsal, Wednesday rehearsal, Thursday, big concert. Okay, and they are so excited to hear each other play. I play the same 4 pieces every year for this concert. Why? Well, a lot of them have come to their older brothers and sisters' concerts. And so they walk in saying, are we going to play that rock and roll song? Are we going? Well, of course we're going to play that rock and roll song. That rock and roll song is this. Let's see if you might know this. Let's see if we can get this to do it. Anybody know this? This is a great tune. This tune is called Chant for Percussion. It sounds like Devo to me. Anybody know Devo? Yeah. They love this. It's modal. The second clarinet, neither clarinet part goes across the break. And the percussion part is really fun. Plus, my assistant, he doctored up the percussion part, so it's really fun. We keep this tune, and then we repeat it again in February for the 5th grade recruiting concert. But we go faster because we can. Okay? So this is fun to play, and they enjoy that very, very much. The other thing we do, we do the same, like I said, the same 4 pieces. We do a piece called Jingling Bells. We do a piece, the Hanukkah song. We play an arrangement of March of the Kings, which is really, really good. It sounds a lot harder than it is. And we always close with our chant for percussion. Now, the other 2 things we do at our concert, at our first 6th grade concert, is we play duets. And we call these features. All right? Let's see how I do on this. There's the up arrow. One more. Come on. All right, let's see how it works. These are saxophone kids who've been playing since August. Okay? Cool. So the parents all get to zoom in on them. And then this is a holiday concert, right? So people are playing up on the housetop and they're playing. May have been a rough oboe year. I don't know if I want you to hear this.
Do they have this memorized or they read?
Oh, they're reading it, yeah. Second 6 weeks we start reading. There we go. They do this without a conductor. I have the double reeds do theirs all by themselves. And the flute players play that great old holiday favorite, I'm a Little Teapot. These are out of the Yamaha duet book. Has a red, white, and blue cover. Here's the Evil Teapot. And believe you me, the parents go crazy over this stuff. I mean, if I'm going to do a concert just with the 6th graders, we could do that in 15 minutes. So we do some other things that make it's a 30-minute concert, so everybody can go out to dinner afterwards. So like I said, we do the specials, and each section has a feature. And then the other thing we do is a sight reading demonstration. And we take the book and we go a couple of lines further in the book than we've done so far in the classroom, and we teach it, just like we teach it in the classroom. We sing the note names, we sing the counts, we do all that. We all play together, and then we ask for volunteers from each section. And then we all play it again together. my principal is her favorite part of the whole entire concert, is to watch these kids become musically literate in front of their very eyes. The parents go nuts. They post this stuff on YouTube. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. All right. So I talked about the sight reading demonstration. We do their first solo and ensemble contest. We run our own solo and ensemble contest, and we do that with our sister middle school, and we actually house it on our campus because our campus is a little bit more convenient. One of the things I like to do, I love solo and ensemble time, almost as much as Chuck. I don't know. Chuck, really, I took a whole lot of your ideas. I can't wait to get back to school and figure out how to do all that on my campus. But I try, in the 6th grade class, I pick 2 solos for each class, one a little easier than the other. And I do this, and then I like to teach duets at the 6th grade level. And our kids in the 7th and 8th graders like to coach the little ones. So they get service hours for National Junior Honor Society, and they take a great, well, how did my duet do? You know, how did my kids do, they'll say. You know, so they love to really help the little ones learn their duet. And we teach them how to start without counting off out loud. That's very important. How you have to have, and we call that the starter. Okay, who's the starter? Who's the thank you person? You know, who announces the duet, who comes in and says, hi, my name is Cheryl Floyd, and this is blah, 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 and today we're going to play, I don't know, something wonderful for you. Camptown Races. That would be fun, you know. And we're going to repeat and switch at the end. I hope you don't mind. You know, so they tell all those kinds of things up front, and then whoever's going to be the thank you person when they get done at the very end. Okay. Any questions about kind of that? That's kind of a quickie. I do... solos the same way. I pick a harder one and an easier one. Yes, I have a private lesson staff as well, but I like to make certain that I at least get through those pieces with them a couple of times. Plus, I think it builds their endurance a little bit, and then we also have they have to come to the front of the room before solo and ensemble contest and play their piece by themselves, or they have to play their duet just by themselves. So we have kind of a dry run, so to speak. But I love solo and ensemble contests. My older ones, I put in bigger groups. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then we actually coach them. I coach my assistant's concert band kids, and he takes care of my kids on that. Let's see. Oh, I have an instruction sheet, and I should have brought it with me. I'll see if I can get that up on my website. We're going to Google Mail. We just did 2 weeks ago, so I'm all excited about Google Docs. I'm going to figure out how to work all those things. It'll be easier for me to share things with people I've met in other places. And I talked about how you start with the breath only and introduce the thank you person. The other first thing that happens for them in 6th grade is their first audition recording. And we don't do live auditions. We do everything by recording. I learned early on that it was important for them to do a rough draft. And their rough draft is, hello, my name is Cheryl Floyd, and first I will play my B-flat concert scale for you. And then you hear the metronome start, and they play the scale, and you hear the recording device turn off, and they turn it back on, and they put their E-flat concert scale on, and they turn that into me. And that's all they do. That's their rough draft. And that proves to me that they know how to use whatever technology they're using, okay? And that they actually have something to record all this on. Okay, they can send me an MP3. They can make a CD. They can. I still take cassettes. Believe it or not, I still have a cassette player from Radio Shack that works. They can use Audacity. Anybody know about Audacity in here? It's a good program, and they like that. Charms Music has a recording studio, but it's a little less user-friendly until you get it going. And but there's several free things that they can actually use, and so they have to do a rough draft, and then they turn in their entire assignment to me, which includes 4 scales: B flat, E flat, A flat, and F, with appropriate octaves. If it's possible to play a double octave scale on your instrument and it's pretty easy, like E flat and F, then that's a required thing. Okay, B flat double octave on flute is extra credit. Okay, there's some extra credit options for them. And I'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about how I teach the chromatic scale, how we chunk it out, and they have a basic chromatic and quarter notes, or a basic chromatic and eighth notes. That's more points. All right? The whole thing. I love it when they go to UT band camp. They always ask for a chromatic scale, and my kids say, well, do you want the basic or the whole thing, you know? and so then I always get a lot of razzing when we have lunch the first time. So what's this whole thing business, you know? Well, it's as much of the range of their instrument as I feel like is possible at that point. The flute players go from low C to high G. The clarinet players go from low E, what are we doing now, up to C, out to the C above the staff and back down. So I try to teach as much as I can during that 6th grade year, and they can play their whole thing in quarter notes or their whole thing in 8th notes for extra credit. So that's, again, bonus points are free. They don't cost you anything. You don't have to buy any candy, but it helps make them better and helps their grade be better and also encourages them to learn some harder things. I'll play just a little bit. We do 2 short contrasting etudes on that audition recording and a challenge etude, an etude that's maybe some of the younger kids don't necessarily do. Or you might decide to only do maybe a couple lines of, for somebody, modify that assignment so they get started on the challenge etude, but maybe they're not quite ready to do that. And all etudes always have a tempo window for me. I had two sisters in my program when I was at Murchison, and Sarah, the older one, did a lot of babysitting for me when Weston was teeny. And so her younger sister came just as I started her younger sister, and then I went on to Hill Country, and so at one point Sarah was working with her younger sister and said, okay, so what's your tempo window on this? And she said, tempo window? What do you mean tempo window? Well, Mrs. Floyd would always have a tempo window. It'd be 90 to 112 or 90 to 120, or so that a perfect performance at a top tempo garners you some extra credit. Just some other things like that can help you raise their level of performance and also keep them interested, challenge those older ones just a little bit. This is, let me see if I can find the right button again. I was very lucky the last time. Let's see, yes. This is just a little bit of a practice record recording. It's not necessarily an audition recording, but this is Miss Hannah Hopkins on the flute. Later on, she's playing with her buddy Mallory. This is kind of how they have a very specific way that they do this.
My name is Hannah Hopkins, and first I'll play my F concert scale series at a quarter note equals 1/12.
That's how you do it. So that's her scale series, her F concert scale series. I started doing practice tapes back, I guess I'd taught 2 years and didn't really know very much of what I was doing. I was really kind of shooting in the dark. I was all by myself on this campus, and luckily my husband was enough of a resource. I could come home and ask some things sometimes. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened to me. But the 3rd year that I was teaching at Murchison, the school, they reassigned the boundaries, and we went from a campus of about 900 kids to a campus of about 400 kids. And we were 75% free and reduced lunch. I had the Lions Club would come in and do glasses or deal with coats, or we had coats for kids and all those kinds of things. And all of a sudden, these kids that came to me came from different elementary schools, and they didn't know the notes that were above the staff. And they didn't know how to make the right clarinet embouchure. And they had no idea what a scale was. So I was trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to get all these basics to them? How can I do this? And finally I said, well, I'm going to have to do recordings. And so I started making practice tapes for them, and I make comments at the end for them. So I talk to them at the end of their recording. Of course, I'm just getting better at doing that on my computer with my microphone to make comments. Sometimes I just send them an email back too. But I found that when I was making comments on the cassettes, the parents listened to that too, and I can also at that point, I can talk about what great leadership skills you have exhibited this semester, or thank you so much for helping me with the beginning saxophone class, or you are so good to come in right after lunch and set up the trumpet section in full band. I really appreciate that. Or, hey, we need to talk about you not talking so much in class. is a really good way for me to praise those kids, not only musically but also socially and academically as well. So a lot of parents really appreciated that. In fact, I had one parent, Micah Oglesby's mom. She was the principal out at Del Valley, rough situation right outside of Austin, and she made the comment one time that you're tricking them into practicing when they make their practice tape. Because usually they don't want to turn in a substandard, tape to you. And I talked to them about the fact that your practice recording gives you the opportunity to give me your very best product, okay? And, if you turn in a sloppy one, then you get a sloppy grade. Sometimes I get these letters, I know this is not my best effort, but I didn't have very much time or whatever. It's really cute to see that. Or they might teach their friend to play, a scale on their instrument, or you might get to hear their bird or whatever tweeting in the background. I get a lot of that kind of stuff. Let's see. Mm-hmm.
They're making essentially audition tapes for you.
They make Yes, they make an audition tape, and the first time that the 6th graders do that is as an audition tape.
And how are the students at this situation able to do that? When you were just talking about that.
Those kids all did cassettes at that point, because that was 20 plus years ago. They were able to do it at home, or I also had equipment at school. But I found that they do a better job if they do it at home. At that point. So anybody who could not take care of it, I helped them at school. Anything else about that kind of stuff at all? See, if I wanted you to hear just a little bit of their duet because it was really good. I think it's number 7. Let's see.
My name is Hannah Hopkins. And my name is Mallory Hopkins. And we're going to play Highlander number 122 and a formula equals 1 4.
They took turns, see? Collaboration. So on each of their recordings, each of their practice tapes, each 6 weeks, kind of has a different focus. The first 3 have to do with their first 3 etudes for their audition for honor band, okay? And then I start looking at their solo and ensemble stuff. The 4th one always has a duet in it. The 5th one might be whatever else I decide is deemed as appropriate. So we do a lot of recordings. Yes?
Have you ever had anybody that didn't turn in their stuff?
Of course.
What do you do?
My assistant takes them out and helps them make a recording. Mm-hmm. Usually my first line of defense is I call the parents, Didn't get Weston's practice recording. Can you check on that? He says he did it. Maybe it's in his backpack, or maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe he hasn't done it yet. So usually I call the parents first or email the parents, and then if that doesn't work, then my assistant pulls them out, or I pull his kids out, and we make the recording with them. Awesome. Okay. All right. So again, I talked a little bit at the very beginning about how important it was for me to plan ahead. And so to me, that's really the ready part of all this, is if I'm not ready and I'm not ready to be a good teacher to them, the next part of the ready part for the older kids, since we have a little bit of time to talk about that before I answer your questions, is I think it's really important to be prepared. I think it's really important to know your score. I think it's real important. I show them, and I'm going to play a little bit of this recording for you tomorrow when we talk about pieces, which is my next love. But I talk to them about how this is an Audubon score. You can buy this from the composer right now. But I show them how I take a highlighter pen and how I mark my score. Okay? See how I numbered the measures at the bottom? Okay, see how I highlighted this accent here right now? So get your highlighter pen out and mark your key change or mark your meter change or whatever. I show them how I study ahead of time and teach them to do the same thing. They're always amazed. Have you ever showed a kid your score? Look what I'm keeping up with here. They go, whoa, how do you do that? Magic. Absolutely by magic. So I think it's real important. I think it's important to study ahead of time. I think it's important for you to mark your score. And I know a lot of people say these are easy pieces, these are baby pieces, but what if there's a fingering in there that you don't know? What if there's like left-handed C? You know about left-handed C, right? Everybody knows it. I was like halfway through my second year before I figured out there was a left-handed C. You know, oh my gosh, I've been saying this wrong my whole life. I didn't know that. But I think it's important for you to mark those kinds of things. I keep a rehearsal plan, a rehearsal journal with my own little shorthand. I write a plan every single day. And sometimes I don't look at it very much, but some days I need it. Some days it's just a rehearsal for my brain. This is what I'm going to work on in this order. The other thing I do a lot of in rehearsal and getting ready for my older kids, and I learned this when I was at Percussion early on, is that I use a timer. I heard somebody else talking about using a timer in here, and I would say, okay, I'm only going to let myself work 5 minutes on this spot, because I'd just get stuck, and the room would be going crazy. Why would the room be going crazy? They're bored to tears. They're waiting for me. So I'd say, okay, only 5 minutes on this spot. Or I'm only going to warm up for 15 minutes today, including any technique work I'm going to do. So I learned to use my timer to pace myself in the rehearsal room. And this is the first thing I send my student teachers down to Radio Shack before I let them do anything in a classroom. They have to have a timer. They just have to have a timer. I think that you have to write it down. I think you have to. I don't think you have to have my principal doesn't require, all the conclusions and all the things that she doesn't require that. In fact, I don't think she's looked at my lesson plans in years. I have a new AP as of late, and so I'm doing a little training with him. He's coming along nicely, let me tell you. He's coming along nicely. Felix and we're going to be best friends for life. I just know it. But he just needed to see how I did things that were a little bit different and how I, proved what I was doing in the classroom. When Chuck was as my assistant, the things I was asking him to do, the things he was asking me to do, by writing it down, I have like a journal. Somebody's absent that day, I write it on the lesson plan, and then I transfer it over to my computer. So that when I'm in rehearsal, all I'm dealing with, or class, all I'm dealing with is the kids. I don't deal with things like attendance and stuff like that. I use that rehearsal plan to do that instead. I write in my assistant plans. I give him copies of that. My student teacher, the same exact thing. I get the room ready. Now, some years I've had like a conference period right before my top band, but not this last year. So I had to enlist the help of the kids. Who's going to get here first and help set up the trumpet section? Lainey Pentek, every single day this last year, she was in there. She got the section all set up. She made sure the chairs were spaced correctly. She'd get the mutes out. Let the kids do that for you. It took me a long time to figure out I could let somebody else do stuff too, so that I could focus on the things that were more important, like teaching music. Plus, it gives them a great deal of self-pride to do that for you. Another way to get ready, how do you disperse new music? When I had a conference period, I'd actually put it out on their chairs. I'm very AR on those kinds of things, get it all out on their chairs. This year, I could either put it in their music slots, okay? I could maybe have a student put it in the music slots. I could ask the first-year players to drop by. How do you disperse new music? How do you deal with things like sight reading? And how are you going to do that? We use a book called 204 Progressive Sight Reading Tunes by Roger Winslow. It's a good book. It has a lot of errors in it, so you have to kind of listen for that. Mm-hmm. But again, that's 204 Progressive Sight Reading Tunes by Roger Winslow. The other thing I have is a folder with all of the previous sight reading pieces for the last 20 years. Once they're done, anybody can buy them. So if you're a new teacher, we have sight reading contests up here. Is it part of your evaluation as well? How many people have a sight reading component? Not at the middle school level. Okay. But you might try that, middle school teachers, and help them get ready to do that when they go to the high school. Have a folder of maybe some easy, and if you actually want the pieces that have been played in Texas at the last 10 years, you can just go on the UIL website and find that list of pieces and purchase those. The last 10 years or so, those pieces have been written specifically for sight reading contests. So they've got all the traps in them that you could ever want to know. As far as steady is concerned, I like to rehearse and teach the same way every day. I like to make that plan again that, okay, in December, I'm going to be playing these pieces. Tomorrow, we're going to do like a rubric. We're going to plan like a year. You've got a copy of what I did this last year in your folders. I've got a blank one for you that we're actually going to kind of plan out a year. Whether or not you stick to that plan, nobody will ever know. But at least you will have thought a little bit about how you're going to do it, okay? So I like to plan what pieces I'm going to play. I like to purchase all those pieces. Sometimes when I do that, I save on shipping, and I get a bigger discount, and I get all kinds of things like that. But I rehearse and teach the same way. We start the warm-up the same way. Chuck, you like for them to come in the room quiet. My kids, they're listening, and that's a great thing. My kids come from lunch, so it's a little harder to get that to happen. So they know that when I stand in front of them and raise my hand, we're ready to focus. And they all do the same thing. They don't stand up, but they raise their hand and they look at everybody faces, eyes front, once again, so important for them to be looking at you. But I routine their warm-up. They know we're going to work on a new piece. We're probably going to close with an old piece. When we get, I guess this shows how nuts I am about this kind of thing. We get to January. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we work on two other pieces. I'll just call them two other pieces right now. On Tuesday, Thursday, we sight read, and we work on our march for contest. And I never get to the 2 weeks before contest going, oh my God, we didn't do sight reading enough, or we didn't get to that piece enough. I have a routine. I do that the same way. We go to band contest the first week in March, so we're the earliest region in the state that goes. And so after we get back from spring break, we do a whole nother program. So that's kind of fun for me, kind of fun and exciting. Consistent warm-up routine. We use a series of Remington warm-ups and lip slurs, followed by the scale series that you just heard Hannah demonstrate for you. A chorale's also performed every day. We work on a chorale every single day. I call that our signature because we play our chorale before we play on stage. And I always tell the kids, I can always tell what a band's going to get after they play their chorale. I always know how things are going to go pretty much by that. In the fall, I do a key a week with them. This week we're going to focus on B-flat concert stuff, and we're going to sight read in B-flat a little bit or play some lines out of our Howliner book or whatever in this key, and that helps kind of focus them. And I don't teach all 12 keys in middle school. I know there are probably several people who do, but I really focus on F, B flat, E flat, and A flat. Then I add G and C in 7th grade. And then toward the end of their 8th grade year, I'm working on D flat and G flat and adding some more keys in. If they're particularly advanced, then I go ahead and we learn Clark studies in all 12 major keys. But I like for them to be technically proficient scales and thirds and Clarks and the length of their instrument in the certain keys that they're going to have to play a lot in. I wish I could do, I was thinking, God, how can I do ensembles like Chuck does before, because we do sectionals before and after school. And primarily, I have my kids are primarily in the morning before school. We start at 7:20, and then most of the second band kids, the concert band kids, are after school. And during that time is where we teach the literature, that's where we build on their fundamentals, that's where we teach the honor band music, the honor band exercises that they're doing. But like you, as a result, I don't have best line duty or lunch duty or a study hall because I'm working from 7:20 to 5 o'clock anyway. And those are protected instructional periods for us as well. But I find that that's also with my big band, that's where I take grades. Other than, of course, their practice takes and stuff like that. I take their grades in their sectionals. Yes? Like a protected instructional period, a teacher, an administrator is not going to assign you something non-instructional to do. Yeah. I'm lucky. I guess I'm lucky. My principal really recognizes the value in that. Plus, our district has done sectionals for so long. And I can go in and say, all of the middle schools that feed 5A high schools have sectionals before and after school. It's true. It's really true. All the middle schools that feed high schools the size of ours, they do that. And they want our kids to be on par with all the other kids in the area. This last year, just another thing as far as principals going with you on that, when we realized last July that we had those 22 top kids that were GT kids that were going to have to pick a different instrument, and I said, absolutely not. And she said, okay, we figured out a way to do the combo class, and then we're teaching all class periods but one. Anybody in our building that teaches all class periods but one gets an extra increment in their paycheck. She said, I can't pay you any extra. She said, but you won't have any busline duty. You won't have advisory. She took our homeroom away from it. She gave us some other accommodations because she knew we were trying to be flexible and we were trying to work with her. So, lucky. The principal before would never have done that. She never would have. Dr. Corey Duty, bless her soul, a wonderful lady, but she wouldn't have done that. The set part, of course, is the practice recordings, public performances. We do, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We talk about all the music that we play, but from Veterans Day programs to, we do, everybody thinks we play at every football game in the state of Texas, and we play it too. You know, that's the number one question that parents come in and ask me. Oh, but he's going to be on the football team next year. How can he be in football and be in band? Well, we played the 8th grade game, and he's in the 7th grade. So trust me, it'll work. It'll work this year for them. The honor organizations, all-state bands. We do not have all-state middle school. We have all-state at the high school level. But we do all district and all regions. So getting ready for those solo and ensemble contests, and we talked a little bit about peer teaching. We have a little bit more time? Not much? 5 minutes, all right. And then as Dick always says, my husband says that a concert is a celebration of all of your hard work. And so to me, that's the sparkle part. You know, it's that MasterCard commercial, you know, priceless, that kind of thing. So how can anybody buy a band concert like this? Nobody can buy this, you know, not really. You know, we've worked hard together. You've worked hard. Now let's share this with your parents. It's your gift to your parents. It's your sparkle part. And I guess we'll be talking tomorrow a little bit about tunes and how I program and how I get them excited about what we're doing. Are there any questions at all? Yes, sir?
I saw someone here use best in class.
I do.
How often in a typical class period do you use it? It doesn't sound like there's any time to
We do best in class in 6th grade. That's our method book for them.
Okay.
And so once I get to the end of the first 6 weeks is usually when I'm starting to teach them to read. And so we start working out of that book. I spend a good half of the class period doing my own shtick, and then, you know, be it scales or stuff by rote or things like that, and then out of the book. And the book is where we take the chair test and we don't do challenges in 6th grade, but, you know, some things along those lines. Mm-hmm.
How do you choose your percussion?
I wish I'd brought that rubric. I'll put all that up for you. But there's a series of exercises that our percussion guy at the high school, who's the second assistant, third band director at the high school, John puts all those kids through this series of exercises. And they're everything from independence of hands, you know, foot pat stuff, note recognition, how fast can they, he puts up a row of notes on the piano, how fast can they name those notes for, not play them, but how fast can.
So they have to have some piano background.
No, they do not. But we used to do that. But if we found that kind of excluded some kids who were really, really fine drummers, you know. And so we don't do that anymore. But they have to be able to recognize notes quickly. How well do they copy? How well do you do call and response with them? So we have a very nice rubric on that to choose those kids. And again, percussion's my first choice, trombone's my second choice. Before they walk out of instrument interview day, they've declared those two things.
One more question. Do the brass classes start to play and read out of the book quicker than your woodwind classes?
Not
Does
really.
everybody wait for the 6 weeks?
We kind of keep them all together the first semester. I don't try to let anybody get too far ahead or too far behind. And then the second semester, I teach to the top of the class. And you know, everybody kind of comes up at that point.
How do you have your bassoons put their instruments together while they're sitting on the floor?
They usually have to kneel or stand up, yeah, or sit on their chair kind of. But we start with all that stuff on the floor so they can pick it up and handle it, know how to hold it in their hand, that kind of stuff. Yes?
On the schedule,
Yeah.
you said the flute, oboe, bassoon, which one?
Right.
And you have clarinet and saxophone.
Clarinet separate, saxophone class.
So during those 3 periods, is your assistant doing brass?
Yes.
Okay, so does he do trumpet by himself, and how does he do his brass?
This next year it's going to be trumpet, and we're going to do trumpet and horn separate, and low brass and percussion. So he'll have those classes.
Okay, so trumpet and horn is one class?
Hopefully not this year. We have done it that way in the past, but when I left campus, she said they would be separate.
And then trombone, euphonium, tuba, one
Right.
class, and the percussion.
Right.
And then you have 1 period off, and then 2 two other classes, or?
Right, his band and my band. Mhm.
So it's some grade band and make your.
Right. And it's actually ability based, but mostly his band is mostly 7th graders and mine is mostly 8th graders.
Well, it is mixed level.
It is ability based.
How'd you manage it?
So
Go ahead.
it's still working. So I'm still going with it. I'll probably have 12 7th graders in my band, 12 of the top kids in my. I like to grow my leaders that way.
We lock our middle school into, you only have 6th graders at one time, 7, 8.
Mhm. I've seen that. That's
Yeah.
scary.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're, for the first time, I'm getting this ability-based thing.
Mhm.
But it was with a lot of persuasion to the academic teachers because of the different math levels.
Mhm.
So, any words of wisdom?
I
I'm
think
worried that it
I
will
think
go
if-
away after this year.
I think if we have different levels for math, we have different levels for music too. If you've got kids that are doing double advanced math, if you've got 6th graders who are taking the geometry class, which is traditionally taught at the 9th grade level, then if you've got a 7th grader that's playing as well as an 8th grader, that kid needs to be in the top group. I would liken it to another. We used to call them core classes and encore classes. So a core class, encore is just like a core class in that regard. Let me know if there's anything else. Uh-oh. The timekeeper says, that's it. Thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, come let me know.